30 years. That is how long Meri Brown kept her mouth shut, smiled for the cameras, and swallowed emotions that would have destroyed most people. But that silence just shattered into a million pieces, and the person standing in the wreckage is none other than Janelle Brown. The woman fans have always considered the chill sister wife, the reasonable one, the wife who never caused drama. Well, folks, buckle up, because Meri is finally telling her side of the story, and what she is revealing is absolutely devastating. The bombshell dropped in a preview for the upcoming Sunday episode, and it is the kind of revelation that reframes everything we thought we understood about this family. Janelle was married to Meri's brother Adam before she ever became Kody Brown's second wife. Let that sink in for a moment. The woman who spent decades sharing a husband with Meri was once her actual sister-in-law. She stood at Meri and Kody's 1990 wedding, watching her then-husband's sister marry the man she would eventually pursue for herself. The sister-in-law to sister-wife pipeline that fans always suspected was problematic has just been confirmed in the most explosive way possible. But wait, because it gets even worse. According to Meri's tearful confession, Kody and Janelle originally wanted to get married on Meri's birthday, her actual birthday. They wanted to take the one day a year that belonged to Meri and turn it into the anniversary of her husband marrying another woman. The audacity is so breathtaking it almost defies comprehension. Sources close to production say Meri's raw emotion during this revelation was unlike anything they had seen from her in 14 seasons of this show. One insider put it bluntly, she finally stopped protecting people who never protected her. The timing of this revelation is particularly significant. With the Brown family scattered to the winds, with Janelle and Christine building their post-Kody friendship, Meri's truth bomb threatens to upend all the carefully constructed narratives about who was the victim and who was the villain in this plural marriage disaster. For years, Meri was painted as the difficult one, the jealous one, the wife who could never quite get along with the others. Now we are learning that perhaps she had every reason to feel isolated from the very beginning. What makes this even more compelling is the contrast between how Meri describes these events and how Janelle has dismissed them over the years. According to those familiar with the situation, Janelle has consistently characterized her brief marriage to Adam as something that did not really matter, a youthful mistake barely worth mentioning. Meanwhile, Meri has been carrying the weight of this betrayal for over 3 decades, watching the woman who married her brother slip seamlessly into her own marriage without anyone acknowledging the emotional devastation it caused. But that is just the surface of what Meri is finally ready to reveal, and the birthday wedding detail is just the beginning of how Janelle and Kody dismissed her from day one. People magazine scored the exclusive sneak peek of this Sunday's episode, and what they are reporting has sent shockwaves through the Sister Wives fandom. This is not some minor disagreement being blown out of proportion. This is Meri Brown sitting in front of cameras, tears streaming down her face, finally addressing what she has held inside for more than 30 years. The raw emotion is palpable in every word, every pause, every shaky breath she takes while recounting the early days of her plural marriage. The layers of betrayal here are almost impossible to untangle. Think about what Meri had to process all those years ago. Her brother's wife, a woman who had been part of her family through marriage, suddenly became her competition for her husband's attention and affection. The woman who sat at her Thanksgiving table as family was now sharing her bedroom rotation. Sources close to Meri say she has spent decades trying to rationalize this, trying to convince herself that plural marriage meant accepting these uncomfortable transitions, but the wound never healed. What the Sister Wives audience is finally understanding is that the foundation of this family was poisoned from its very inception. One production insider revealed that crew members who have been with the show for years always sensed something deeper between Meri and Janelle, a tension that went beyond typical sister-wife jealousy. Now we know why. This was never just about sharing a husband. This was about a betrayal so fundamental that it colored every interaction, every holiday, every supposed family moment for 3 decades. The preview shows Meri speaking with a clarity and conviction that longtime viewers have rarely witnessed. She is not hedging. She is not trying to maintain family peace. She is stating facts and finally allowing herself to feel the emotions she suppressed in the name of keeping the family together. According to those who have seen more footage, this is just the beginning of what Meri plans to address. The birthday detail alone is explosive enough, but insiders say her revelations about how both Kody and Janelle systematically dismissed her feelings are even more damaging. For fans who have watched this show since 2010, this changes the entire viewing experience. Every uncomfortable dinner scene, every tear Meri shed that seemed disproportionate to the situation, every time she was accused of being too sensitive now makes perfect sense. She was not overreacting. She was a woman trapped in a situation born from betrayal, surrounded by people who refused to acknowledge the legitimacy jealousy of her pain. One viewer comment that has gone viral since the preview dropped sums it up perfectly. "We owe Meri an apology for every time we thought she was being dramatic." But the birthday revelation is not just some minor footnote in this story, and what Kody and Janelle tried to do to Meri's special day reveals a pattern of disrespect that continued for decades. Let us talk about the sheer audacity of planning your wedding to someone else's husband on that wife's birthday. This is not just inconsiderate. This is a level of disrespect that borders on psychological cruelty. According to Meri's emotional account, when Kody and Janelle were planning their wedding, they looked at the calendar and decided that Meri's birthday would work perfectly for their big day. Their attitude, as Meri describes it with barely contained fury, was simply that Meri could celebrate her birthday on a different day. Allow me to translate what that actually means. They wanted Meri to give up her birthday forever, so that it could become the anniversary of her husband marrying another woman. Every year for the rest of her life, when Meri blew out candles on a cake, it would also be a celebration of Janelle joining her marriage. The psychological torture of that arrangement is almost incomprehensible. Imagine having to smile and celebrate your own birthday knowing that your husband and sister wife are also commemorating the day they committed to each other. It would be a constant reminder year after year that your feelings simply did not matter. What makes this even more infuriating is who finally put a stop to it. It was not Kody. The man who supposedly loved Meri, who stood up and said, "Absolutely not, we cannot do that to my wife." No. Sources confirm it was Kody's mother who intervened and shut down the idea. His own mother had to point out how cruel this would be to his first wife because Kody apparently could not figure that out himself. Let that sink in for a moment. The man who married Meri, who pledged to cherish and protect her, needed his mother to explain basic human decency. The fact that Janelle was apparently fine with this plan speaks volumes about her character and her regard for Meri from the very beginning. This was not ignorance or thoughtlessness. This was a deliberate choice to prioritize her own desires over Meri's fundamental dignity. One relationship expert who has commented on sister wives dynamics described this as a massive red flag that predicted decades of dysfunction. When someone is willing to take your birthday, they are telling you exactly how much they value your existence in their life. Meri's voice breaks when she discusses this in the preview, and honestly, who could blame her? She has spent 30+ years being told her feelings were too big, her reactions were too much, her jealousy was the problem. Now she is finally revealing that the people calling her difficult were the same people who tried to steal her birthday for their wedding day. The audacity is not just breathtaking, it is a pattern of behavior that explains every single conflict Meri ever had with Janelle. But the disrespect of the wedding date planning only scratches the surface because how Janelle became available to marry Kody in the first place exposes an even more troubling dimension of this story. Here is where the timeline gets really suspicious. And folks, I need you to pay close attention to the sequence of events. Janelle met Meri's brother Adam when she was a senior in high school. They dated, fell in love, got married, and became part of the extended Brown and family circle. Janelle was literally present at Meri and Kody's 1990 wedding, not as a random guest, but as Meri's sister-in-law. She watched her husband's sister marry Kody Brown, and something clearly shifted in that moment. The timing of what happened next is what raises serious questions. Janelle and Adam's marriage ended after Kody and Meri got married, not before, after. The woman standing next to her husband at his sister's wedding somehow found herself divorced from that husband and pursuing the groom within a suspiciously short time frame. Sources who have researched the family history extensively suggest that the attraction between Janelle and Kody may have developed while Janelle was still technically married to Meri's brother. Whether anything inappropriate happened is unknown, but the optics are terrible. Meri's own words in the preview make it clear how painful this entire situation was for her. When the conversation about Janelle coming into our family started happening, it was really hard for me. That is what she says, her voice thick with emotion. This is a woman recalling the moment when her brother's ex-wife became a candidate to share her husband. Try to imagine processing that information. Your sister-in-law, someone who was supposed to be family through your brother, now wants to be family in an entirely different and far more intimate way. The impact on Meri's relationship with her brother Adam has never been publicly discussed in detail, but one can only imagine the awkwardness, the hurt, the fundamental weirdness of watching your ex-wife join your sister's plural marriage. Family gatherings must have been absolutely excruciating. Holidays, birthdays, any event where the extended family came together would have been loaded with tension and unspoken resentment. Sources say Adam has largely stayed out of the public eye, specifically because this situation is too complicated and painful to discuss openly. What strikes longtime viewers as particularly troubling is how this history was largely glossed over in the early seasons of Sister Wives. The show presented the Brown family as if they all came together organically through their faith and commitment to plural marriage. The complicated, messy, borderline scandalous truth about how Janelle actually entered the picture was minimized and sanitized. Fans who are now learning these details in full feel deceived, and rightfully so. One commenter captured the mood perfectly when they wrote, "They made us think Meri was the problem when she was actually the victim from day one." But what makes this betrayal even more painful is how Janelle has characterized this entire history throughout the years, and her dismissive attitude reveals everything you need to know about why Meri was always the outsider. Throughout 14 seasons of Sister Wives, Janelle Brown has consistently minimized her marriage to Adam as something barely worth mentioning. In her telling, it was not really a thing. It did not really matter. It was a brief, youthful mistake with no lasting significance. The casual way she dismisses a legal marriage to another human being, a marriage that made her part of Meri's family, is absolutely staggering in its coldness. Contrast that with Meri's emotional revelations in this preview. Meri is fighting back tears as she describes the impact of these events. She talks about wrapping her head around multiple levels of betrayal. She acknowledges emotions that she has suppressed for over 3 decades. The difference between these two women's approaches to the same history could not be more stark. One treats a marriage and its aftermath as an inconvenient footnote. The other has been carrying the trauma like a weight around her neck for most of her adult life. Janelle's pattern of minimizing other people's feelings is not limited to her treatment of Meri. Longtime viewers have noticed her tendency to smirk or grin during moments when Kody would verbally attack Christine. She would sit there with an almost satisfied expression while her sister wife was being humiliated and dismissed. Sources close to the production have described Janelle as strategically passive, someone who let others take the hits while positioning herself as the reasonable one. It was a brilliant manipulation tactic, and it worked for years. Meri's pain in this preview is visceral when she addresses this dismissiveness directly. They forget that there might have been some emotions involved. That simple statement carries the weight of 30 years of being told her feelings did not count. Every time Meri expressed discomfort about the circumstances of Janelle joining the family, she was made to feel like the problem. Her emotions were treated as obstacles to family harmony rather than valid responses to a genuinely difficult situation. The gaslighting, to use a modern term, was constant and systematic. What the Sister Wives audience is finally seeing is the real Meri Brown, not the villain she was painted as, but a woman who was set up to fail from the moment Janelle entered her marriage. She was expected to welcome her brother's ex-wife, accept a wedding that almost happened on her birthday, and do it all with a smile. When she inevitably struggled with these impossible expectations, she was labeled as the difficult one. The reframing happening in real time as fans process these revelations is remarkable to witness. Social media is flooded with apologies to Meri and condemnations of how she was treated, but Janelle's dismissiveness toward Meri is just part of a larger pattern of code violations that fundamentally broke every rule of relationships, family, and basic human decency. Let us break down exactly how many codes Janelle violated when she pursued and married Kody Brown. First, there is girl code, the unwritten rule that you do not go after your friends or family members' romantic partner. Janelle was not just some random woman who met Kody at a church function. She was Meri's sister-in-law. She had a front row seat to Meri's marriage through family connections. Going after Kody violated every principle of female solidarity. Then there is bro code, which apparently Kody ignored entirely when pursuing his wife's brother's wife. Adam trusted his sister's husband to behave appropriately around his wife. That trust was catastrophically misplaced. What kind of man looks at his brother-in-law's wife and thinks, yes, I want that for myself? The violation of Adam's trust and the destruction of his marriage is a dimension of this story that rarely gets discussed, but it is absolutely central to understanding the damage done. Family code is perhaps the most egregious violation. Janelle was part of the Brown family through her marriage to Adam. She attended family dinners, she was present at family celebrations. She was by marriage Meri's sister. To take that familial position and leverage it into becoming a romantic competitor for Meri's husband is a betrayal so profound that many families would never recover. Sources who have studied the Brown family dynamics suggest this original sin poisoned every relationship for the next 3 decades. And finally, there is sister-wife code, the principles that supposedly govern plural marriage relationships. The entire premise of spiritual marriage and their faith tradition is built on trust, communication, and mutual respect among wives. How can you build trust with someone who entered your marriage by divorcing your brother and pursuing your husband? How do you respect someone who thought your birthday was a convenient wedding date? The foundation of Meri and Janelle's sister-wife relationship was rotten from the start. One family therapist who has analyzed the Brown family extensively described the situation as a textbook example of unresolved original trauma shaping every subsequent interaction. Meri never had a fair chance at a harmonious relationship with Janelle because the circumstances of Janelle's entry were fundamentally disrespectful. Every conflict they had over the next 30 years was really just an echo of that original betrayal, playing out again and again because it was never properly addressed. But here is the thing that makes this all even worse. Janelle's betrayal of Meri was not an isolated incident, but part of a pattern of convenient loyalty that served her interests while hurting everyone around her. For years, fans watched Janelle laugh off Kody's vicious attacks on Christine as if they were minor disagreements rather than emotional abuse. She would sit on those infamous couches during tell-all specials, a slight smile playing on her lips while Christine cried about being neglected and dismissed. The coldness was palpable, and at the time, many viewers thought Janelle was just being the calm, rational sister wife who did not get caught up in drama. Now we understand it differently. Janelle's strategic positioning throughout the series has been nothing short of masterful. She consistently aligned herself with power, which meant aligning herself with Kody, until that alliance no longer benefited her. She forgave Kody for what she herself described as the unthinkable, the unimaginable treatment of the other wives. She watched her sister wives suffer and said nothing. She saw Meri isolated and marginalized and offered no meaningful support. Her loyalty was always calculated, never genuine. Consider how Janelle's attitude toward Kody shifted only when she personally was affected. As long as Kody was mistreating Meri, Janelle was fine. As long as Christine was being neglected, Janelle stayed silent. But the moment Kody's dysfunction started impacting Janelle's children and Janelle's lifestyle, suddenly she found her voice. Suddenly she had standards. Suddenly the behavior she had enabled for decades was unacceptable. The convenient timing is impossible to ignore. This raises serious questions about Janelle's current friendship with Christine. After Christine left Kody, Janelle suddenly became her closest ally. They started a business together. They appear on social media together looking like the best of friends. But where was this solidarity when Christine needed it most? Where was Janelle when Kody was publicly humiliating Christine year after year? The friendship that Janelle and Christine now enjoy was built on a foundation of Janelle's years of complicit silence. Sources close to Christine say she has processed her complicated feelings about Janelle's past behavior, but one has to wonder if Meri's revelations will change that calculation. When you learn the full extent of how someone entered your family and how they treated your sister wife from day one, it becomes harder to maintain that carefully constructed friendship. The dynamic between all the former Brown wives is about to get significantly more complicated. Now that Meri is speaking out with such raw honesty, the entire narrative about who was the good wife and who was the difficult one is crumbling under the weight of actual truth. The January 4th episode featured a conversation between Janelle and Meri that attempted to address some of this painful history, and according to those who have seen it, the exchange was as uncomfortable as you would expect. Meri sat across from the woman who married her brother, pursued her husband, and tried to take her birthday, and attempted to have an honest conversation about their decades of dysfunction. The vulnerability Meri displayed was remarkable given everything she has endured. Meri's words during this confrontation cut straight to the heart of the matter. It was a tough thing to wrap my head around on multiple levels. That careful phrasing belies the absolute chaos of emotions she must have been processing. Multiple levels indeed. There was the level of her brother's divorce, the level of losing her sister-in-law to her own marriage, the level of having her birthday almost hijacked, the level of being dismissed and minimized for 30 years, each level compounding the one before it. Janelle's body language during this conversation reportedly spoke volumes. Sources describe her as defensive, dismissive, and unwilling to fully acknowledge the impact of her choices on Meri. There were moments of deflection, attempts to change the subject, and the familiar Janelle pattern of treating historical wounds as ancient history that should be forgotten. Her apparent inability or unwillingness to sit with Meri's pain and truly hear it frustrated viewers who had hoped for some genuine reconciliation. The question of whether this conversation was healing or just reopened old wounds is one that fans are debating fiercely. On one hand, Meri finally got to say things she had been holding inside for decades. There is therapeutic value in speaking your truth, even if the other person does not fully receive it. On the other hand, Janelle's resistance to truly acknowledging the harm she caused may have simply reinforced Meri's feelings of being unheard and invalidated. What struck many viewers was the fundamental imbalance in how these two women approached the conversation. Meri Meri came with vulnerability, emotion, and a genuine desire to be understood. Janelle came with walls up and a clear reluctance to take full responsibility for the pain her choices caused. One relationship expert who reviewed the footage described it as a classic example of one person trying to repair while the other person tries to minimize. Without both parties fully engaging, true healing is impossible. But Meri is clearly not done revealing truths about the Brown family dynamics, and what the upcoming Sunday episode promises to deliver goes even deeper into the dysfunction that define this plural marriage. The Brown family has essentially disintegrated since the cameras first started rolling in 2010. Janelle officially split from Kody in late 2022 after years of growing distance. Christine made her dramatic exit that same year, finally acknowledging what viewers had seen for seasons, that Kody had checked out of their relationship entirely. And Meri, after clinging to hope longer than perhaps she should have, finally accepted that her marriage was over in 2023. The irony of the current situation is almost too perfect. After all the drama, all the betrayals, all the emotional warfare, the only wife still standing beside Kody is Robyn, the woman whose entry into the family arguably accelerated its destruction. The family that started with Janelle sliding into her sister-in-law's marriage has ended with everyone abandoning the man at its center, except his fourth and clearly favorite wife. One cannot help but see some cosmic justice in how this has all played out. How Meri's revelations will affect Janelle and Christine's friendship remains an open question. Christine has been remarkably gracious toward all her former sister wives, but learning the full extent of how Janelle entered the family and how she treated Meri from day one might shift that dynamic. Will Christine continue her close alliance with someone who violated every code of sisterhood before the cameras even started rolling? Sources say Christine is processing these revelations carefully and has not yet commented publicly. The question of why Meri is speaking out now, after all these years of silence, invites speculation. Is this about healing, finally processing trauma that has been suppressed for decades? Is it about vindication, proving to the world that she was never the villain they made her out to be? Or is it something simpler, a woman who has nothing left to lose, finally telling her truth because there is no family harmony left to protect? Whatever her motivation, the impact on Sister Wives fans has been seismic. Social media analysis shows a dramatic shift in how viewers perceive each of the Brown wives since Meri started speaking out. Janelle's favorability has dropped significantly, while Meri is experiencing a rehabilitation that was long overdue. The cool wife narrative that Janelle cultivated for years is unraveling thread by thread as the truth of her entry into the family becomes widely understood. As the Brown empire continues its spectacular collapse, the question that keeps surfacing is one that challenges everything we thought we knew about this family, and who was really the villain all along. The Sister Wives fandom is experiencing a collective reckoning right now, and it is long overdue. For 14 seasons, we watched Meri Brown be painted as the jealous wife, the difficult one, the woman who could not get along with her sister wives despite everyone else's best efforts. We accepted that narrative because it was the one the show presented. We blamed Meri for conflicts without understanding the impossible position she had been put in from the very beginning. We owe her better. Janelle's carefully constructed reputation as the chill sister wife, the rational one, the wife who rose above petty drama, is being systematically dismantled by Meri's truth-telling. It turns out that being chill is a lot easier when you are not the one who was betrayed. It turns out that appearing reasonable is simple when the person you wronged is being painted as the villain. Janelle's coolness was not wisdom or maturity. It was the comfort of someone who got what she wanted at someone else's expense. Fans who always sensed something was off about how Janelle entered the family are feeling validated in a way they could not have anticipated. The comments on every Sister Wives platform are filled with viewers saying they always knew, always felt like Meri was being scapegoated, always suspected the brother-in-law to sister wife pipeline was more problematic than the show acknowledged. The collective intuition of the audience has been proven correct, and there is both satisfaction and sadness in that confirmation. The upcoming Sunday episode promises even more revelations from Meri, and based on what we have already seen in the preview, she is not holding back anymore. The woman who spent 3 decades being told her feelings were too much is finally letting those feelings out, and the Brown family mythology is crumbling under the weight of her truth. Whatever else she reveals, it is clear that the Sister Wives story we thought we knew was always a carefully edited version designed to protect certain people at the expense of others. Now that Meri is finally speaking her truth after more than 30 years of silence, the question that demands an answer is this: do you think Janelle owes her an apology for the birthday betrayal, for the brother situation, for decades of dismissing her emotions, or is it simply too late for apologies to mean anything at all? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is just getting started, and Meri Brown clearly has a lot more to say.